today. Ajmahari here. Is there a connection between people with codependency, people with borderline personality disorder, and narcissists? Is there a connection, like it's some connected triangle, because underneath the codependent and underneath the underpinnings of the codependent emotionally and or the borderline and or the narcissist are so similar somewhere? No. What people with codependency don't entirely share with people with BPD, that they kind of pretty much share but not in the same way as narcissists, is primal core childhood woundedness. More so with BPD and NPD, right? Then people with codependency, that it can be stemming from primal core child woundedness to a point, but it's often a little bit older in childhood, like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, beyond, where codependency really develops as a response to adverse experience. And so what needs to be your goal if you're a codependent today? Well, making a choice to perhaps get into a healing recovery journey so that you're not in repetition compulsion cycles and or recycling with somebody with BPD or a narcissist. That you don't continue to maintain your codependent ways of relating to anyone else in your life or cluster Bs that you keep encountering in relationships, because many people have that experience, not all. What are these patterns? Why are they in your life? And do you think they're just going to go away, or do you think maybe that's what you need to focus on to get into a healing recovery journey for? Because you can heal the codependency. You can heal from the relationship, whether it's been 1 cluster B or 2 or 3 significant other relationships over time, and or you may have a cluster B parent as well. Not everybody with codependency does, but you can heal this codependency. And I'm not saying it's not without some pain, but it's also very rewarding. And what is the goal of that? And getting away and out of those iterations and cycling and focus on and ruminating and cognitive dissonance, all about the borderline of the narcissist, is that you need to find you. And after these relationships, people really need to find themselves again, because you've lost more of yourself. People come out feeling really just broken, like their world is upside down, heartbroken, etc. So healing codependency is possible. And what is the goal there? Well, to heal from the BPD or NPD relationship continuous breakups, or whatever we want to call them, and to also heal from what wounded you in your childhood that led you to actually end up with a cluster B in the first place. Obviously not consciously, but there's a high correlative factor there. And so in healing from that relationship, but also, or a series of relationships, or a cluster B parent and a significant other that was a borderline or narcissist, with all that work that some people have to do, then the other aspect is getting to know you better. And it does go to the inner child healing work and really helping to heal those wounds from childhood so that you can step out of your family of origin role. Because that's interjected. For people with BPD, NPD, etc., there's lots of interjects. But there's interjects for people with codependency too. Because an interjection is just something that we take on, and it's an unconscious process. You could interject something positive from somebody positive. You know, like lots of people might say, well, I had the kind of father that he was really great and present, and he taught me this and he taught me that, which wasn't my experience, but I've heard clients say this. And so you have a positive interject in many ways, or maybe many positive interjects from your experience with a parent that was really there for you. But often it might be one parent for a codependent, and there's issues with the other, and that's what wounds you. But so to heal codependency and that whole process, and of course healing from the cluster B, etc., and what happened in your family of origin, is to step out of that role clearly and become an independent person. So go from codependency to being independent. And what is that? That's an individuation process and a self-integrative process between wounded inner child and you today as a man or woman. And it's knowing more about self. And then you get to this independence. And independence is important. And what it is about is having more agency and autonomy over your choices, and not abandoning yourself to someone else who's going to hurt you. Having self-respect, knowing who you are. And many other, maybe ways to describe what does it mean to be an independent person. But it means to be an integrated whole person, not a person living your life right now with a wounded inner child who's unconsciously got a different agenda from where you want to be. That's how you end up with the cluster B, by the way. The wounded inner child, looking for the reparation and the rescue that you can actually give your wounded inner child, but you can't give any borderline or narcissist. Keep trying, doesn't work, right? So it's codependency to being independent. And that is also the process of healing recovery. As I work with clients, out here work with people, I resonate with you. It's the process of individuation. So you're becoming independent and stepping out of your family of origin role. For many people, that's stepping out of a scapegoat role. For some people, even the golden child gets hurt sometimes. So sometimes it's not fully staying in the role of golden child, and what that might mean. Many people that are narcissists might have been golden child in family of origin. But if you've been scapegoated, or maybe it wasn't that bad or to that degree, but you still have a family role when you are codependent. There are unspoken, unwritten rules in these families that don't do this, don't do that, don't air the dirty laundry, often like they don't believe in therapy, etc. So you want to heal your way out of your role in the family of origin, because it's a codependent role, whether you are a scapegoat on top of that as well or not. So, and that's an individuation and self-integration process in healing from what wounded you as a child, but you now have a wounded inner child who's kind of still back there with that woundedness as you're going forward in your life. And so independence is having more agency and autonomy, knowing yourself better to make certain decisions for yourself. So I just want to be clear that independence isn't a state of being in humanity that is some standalone thing, but it is that you will know yourself better and you will not abandon yourself anymore. And like I said, agency and more autonomy, and to be able to be with yourself, to soothe yourself, to emotionally cope with being alone, to just be more who you fully are and be more aware of that and have boundaries, know how to say no, know how to handle conflict if conflict comes your way, not be avoidant of things that people with codependency have learned to be avoidant of things from childhood on. So this independence is really an important place to get to in life. And it doesn't mean, I've heard it said out there that, independence doesn't exist because we all need something in humanity. Yeah, but when you're independent, which is a healthy state and really has meaning in psychology and in general, when you get to this independence and place of knowing self better, etc., then you're not going to be as dependent on other people or other things. Because to say that one can't be independent because they would be, you're dependent on food supply chains, you're dependent on, but that's not unhealthy dependence. That's like, we have needs, and some things like, the food chain is probably a good example, because we all, this is a medical condition, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not, but we all need to eat, right? To fuel our bodies. And I don't have an eating issue. I have a medical condition here, just saying. Anyway, so if you think that you have reliance, you have more, when people that are independent have more reliance on things that we need as human beings, like food. And so the reliance on the food supply chain isn't a dependence. I mean, could we do without it if we can't find our own food? Maybe not. I don't know. I guess we're all going to find out sooner than later, aren't we? But the point is that independence doesn't mean that we don't still have relationship to things that we might need that are external to us, but we're not in that same childlike, needy, dependent place with those things. Like, for example, if the food chain was totally interrupted for a time, which is like really possible in our world today, wouldn't most of us have a little bit set aside already to survive with? Wouldn't we then look for ways to cooperate? Not everybody, but more people than not. Cooperate with neighbors or friends or family and try to provide for each other based on what we have or what we think we can go find, or if we don't understand much about it, but what can we find out there in outside of the city that we could perhaps eat for a while, right? So it's not the same kind of dependence, even though we have a reliance upon things, sometimes external, but we still have our own agency and ability to make choices and know ourselves fully, which is really the best it can get in humanity, right? Because we're not going to control everything outside of ourselves anyway. So to say that there's no such thing as independence because you're always dependent on something, no. Reliant isn't the same as dependent. And then the more independent you are, the more you're going to have creative solutions to anything that a human being can possibly seek after to make up for something that isn't there in a way that's been relied upon, right? The survival instinct. It's a very independent thing, in a way. And so then there's the individuation that takes place in healing from the BPD or NPD relationship and healing the codependency, because you're going to step out of the family of origin role and you're going to finally be this individuated individual who's independent. And independence, by the way, is not 100% thing. It's not like, well, now you're so independent you don't need anybody or anything. No, it's not that you won't still need people and things, or like in the food supply chain, for example, and other things in your life, but you're not going to be dependent on them in the same way as reliance and dependence aren't the same thing. So anyway, I could probably say more about that, but going forward to the next point, what is interdependency? And is that necessarily guaranteed bliss or happiness? No. But first, people have to heal their codependency to get to being an interdependent person who's individuated from family of origin role. So you're really being fully you now. That's the goal. And what does that mean? And people have to work through that, from codependency to being independent. And individuated from family of origin role. And what that means in codependence and what that can mean in other dysfunctional families of origin, like scapegoat, etc. So the thing is with that then, so you heal from codependency, you become independent, which isn't a perfect state if you don't need anything from anywhere else, by the way. But you just don't need it like you're dependent on it, like, we do have some reliance on food chains and things like that we don't have control over. And being independent makes us more able to cope with that reality. And should there be some major problem with that or any other area of life. So this individuation process, by the way, which goes beyond healing codependency, becoming independent, and stepping outside of that family of origin role for good. Individuation really goes on throughout the life cycle once you get into that process where that's possible. And this is from Jungian psychology, the importance of individuation. But individuation goes hand in hand with being independent. And then, so from a cluster B relationship, you as a codependent with a cluster B, what happens is when you go forward, you do this healing work and become an independent, individuated person, much more individuated person, then when you're looking for, to date someone and you're maybe ready to go on to see if you can, find a healthy relationship, what is the basis of a healthy relationship? There are many foundational pieces of what is a healthy relationship. But among them are that you're an independent person, you've individuated from your family of origin, healed any woundedness from your inner child. That's a self-integrative process. So now you're more of a whole person, independent, individuated. You will still individuate further over the course of your life cycle. And then, so an independent person who's individuated from the family of origin role, healed that wounded inner child, because this happens to so many people, right? Then you are going to be individuated enough to where you're on what's also known, the next step is a self-actualization process. And then when you're there at the beginning, self-actualizing, but you're individuated, you've healed from codependency, you're now independent, your whole way of viewing things in relationships is going to be different. So what's foundational to a healthy relationship? Lots of things are. I'm going to name a few key ones here right now. Self-respect, respect from the other person, that the other person has self-respect for themselves. So respect. Truth, honesty, ability to communicate. You know your emotional landscape. The other person knows theirs. You can check in with each other. You can achieve meta-communication without a struggle. Like when you said blah, 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 I was kind of thinking that you might have meant, and I was feeling a little bit like, could you clarify that for me? And the other person isn't resistant or anything, says, oh, that's interesting. Because either they meant that, and what you're feeling is accurate, and then maybe you have to discuss that more for some reason or other, or they'll say, oh, no. When I said this, that, what you were referring to, no. What I was really meaning, what I really meant by that, and they'll reframe it for you. And this is meta-communication. This is what you can't do with a borderline. Anyway, healthy relationships, and this is well known by so many clinicians in Jungian psychology and Maslow's hierarchy of needs and self-actualization in life, etc., personal growth throughout the life cycle. So when you get to this point in your life of healing and all the work that you will do to get there, then, so respect, self-respect of each person in a relationship, crucial, and respect for each other. Because with that, and being an independent, more individuated person, you have boundaries intact now. At that point, you will. And then you will not let anybody disrespect you, let alone neglect you, let alone treat you worse than that. You will have a boundary. And if they can't hear, you will assert that. And if they can't hear that, well, then there's your red flag and goodbye. Right? Because you want to take care of yourself, and you will not accept anything less than somebody who's where you're at in your life. You need to be met where you're at in your life. Because, by the way, people with codependency, you're getting met with where you're at in your life when you meet the cluster Bs. I don't mean you deserve that. I'm just saying that's the way it is. So, along with self-respect that each partner will have, two people coming together to date and maybe form a healthy relationship down the road, respect is a cornerstone. Truth and honesty and ability to communicate honestly with inquiry and with respect for self and other. Really important. Can only be done from an independent, individuated, psychological perspective. So, the huge foundational piece in healthy relationships, no matter what you hear elsewhere out there, is one independent person coming together with another independent person. And independence doesn't mean you don't need anything from anywhere, like food chain supply, grocery, you know what I mean? So, but psychologically speaking, you can meet your own needs. So whether you're alone or whether you're on a date or whatever you're doing, you're going to be at peace with yourself if you achieve this independence by working hard to heal, codependency, etc. So a healthy relationship is based on two independent people coming together. This isn't just coming from me, by the way. There's books, there's all kinds of psychology on this. That two independent people come together in a relationship. And what does that really mean? Between these two independent people, does it mean there's absolutely no dependence? Well, there's no unhealthy dependence. So each person respecting self and other, having their own autonomy and independence, knowing who you are, what your boundaries are, what your limits are, and that you're an effective communicator, and that hopefully the other person who's independent that you're getting to know is too. So healthy relationships are based on two independent people coming together with self-respect and respect for other, going forward if it's a good fit and you are compatible, etc. And then how does that really work? Like, I'm in a relationship like that right now. I'm independent. My partner is independent. We come together in interdependency, which is really the pinnacle. I'm not trying to say way up there, like kind of, but the pinnacle of healthy relating. So what it means is that my partner and I share a lot of things. Do we help each other with different things sometimes? Sure. Do we listen to each other and care about each other and love each other? Yeah. But neither one of us has dependency on the other that means that we would ever compromise what the other person is doing, or their autonomy or their agency for choice. Because remember, when you're in a relationship with another independent, individuated, relatively healthy person, they're not going to do anything to disrespect you. They're not wanting or needing or at all going to hurt you. And this is also where trust is a cornerstone of a healthy relationship. And I would just say what I've learned over the course of my life, and I've had other healthy relationships as well, is that what's really important, and I know for me, but even back when I was labeled with and struggling, with my childhood adverse experience and 4 strong traits of BPD, because I was labeled, not diagnosed. But even back then, I always knew, just as an individual, that if somebody cheated on me in a relationship, over, done. Now, did I have some other things like that I thought I knew that I kind of compromised, as I was in healing recovery and or after that was still having codependency? Yeah. That's how I got into a relationship with a BPD NPD alcoholic some years ago, right? Like quite a while ago now. But the point is, so it really is true that you can go from codependency, the wounded inner child, the family of origin role that you're still sort of semi-stuck in, and or the inculcation and sort of, training without like it being a formal, they're trying to do it on purpose thing, of how you're relating and how you lost yourself, how you don't know yourself well enough, that codependent, unhealthy, and dysfunctional relationship to self that is part of in one way or another, part of the family of origin becomes your role in that family system. How everybody staying in a certain role in dysfunctional families and dysfunctional family systems is important, because without it, then powers that be in that family of origin are going to be various degrees of angry, punishing. There'll be lots of issues and problems wherein there's no respect, and it can become like war, emotional warfare, control struggles. And so in this healthier relationship, you've worked toward your independence now. You're independent, you're individuated, and I had to work through a lot of therapy to get individuated and become independent. And like I'll just share an example with my partner and I. It's like, so she has her own business and I do my own thing. She has a huge family. I went no contact from family of origin. I have friends that are like family, and we have a few friends in common, and she has other friends, and I have other friends, and sometimes they commingle with each other too, with us, But the thing is, my partner, we trust each other implicitly. It's built on the foundation of respect, and that each of us is an independent person. So if the other person were to do something that was really egregious to our boundary, like if she did something egregious to my boundaries or vice versa, that wouldn't be the end of the relationship, because we wouldn't not be able to say, I'm sorry, this doesn't work for me. And if that's the way that this is good, like if somebody cheated, like if my partner would never, I trust her implicitly. But if she ever cheated on me, it would be over. That would be it for me. That's totally a deal breaker for me, as it should be for anyone. So this idea of independent comes together in interdependency. It's that you share lots, and you give lots, and you receive lots, and it's a mutual, reciprocal, healthy relationship, based on trust and respect, right? And that you don't want to ever violate trust or respect because you love this other person. So, and you care about them as you care about yourself. And it's like, it's not an either or proposition. So the other thing I would say about that, as I've experienced it too, and have before this relationship, in a couple other relationships in my life, is that, like, we share a lot and we love each other. And I would say in my relationship, we're not always together 24/7. I think that's a healthy thing. And my partner might be out doing other stuff, or because she's much more outgoing than I am. I'm kind of like an introvert anyways, never mind the physical situation right now that also impacts things. But she wants to go do something on her own. Maybe she wants to go do it on her own, period. Or if she wants to say, hey, do you want to come along? Do you want to? And either way, if I'm not invited, number one, it's cool. And if I am and I say no, she respects that I don't want to do it with her at that time. Or if I ask her, hey, do you want to do this? Because I'm going to do this, or watch a movie or something. And she says, well, that'd be great, and we'll do that another time. But right now, I have to finish this. Or, she has lots of kids that are growing up, and they're having kids now. She might be like, oh, but my daughter was, and I have to go do it. And I'm like, okay, cool. And maybe we catch up later, or in a day or two with work and whatnot. And the thing about that is, it's mutuality and reciprocity, and it's respecting the other person's needs and their agency to take care of needs that aren't, relying upon what you want or what you feel like you need, because you take care of your own needs. I think that's the bottom line. Like, and I shouldn't just use my partner as an example, but people in interdependent relationships, like I'm describing the relationship I'm in, what it really is then is that, there's things that you want in that relationship. And you come together and you love each other, and there's respect and mutuality and reciprocity. But there's also an understanding that if you want something in a given moment, or you want to share time with that person, and they're busy, then you respect that. And you go, okay, well, and sometimes my partner and I might talk about, well, okay, when's the next time we can do this? Just hang out together and just be. Because maybe for her and I, it might take 3 or 4 days to kind of pick that next time. And that's okay. It doesn't mean we don't see each other in the meantime. So, but it's like the freedom of each person having their own autonomy, that yes, you love that person and you want to spend time with them, but not all your time. See, this is the other thing that people get wrong in codependency, unfortunately. It's very wounding and very painful. Like I said in a live stream recently, there's something that somebody said, nobody should ever be your world. Like, is my partner mega important to me? Yes. Do I love and care about her, respect her and trust her, and a whole other thing? Yes. But is she my world? No. No. I am an independent, individuated person, and have other aspects of my world. Some of it is my work. Some of it is my friends. Some of it is about my pets. Some of it is just about solitude and downtime, because I'm an introvert. Sorry. And my own need to recharge my battery, so to speak. And my partner is an extrovert. I'm an introverted extrovert, which I think is a little more complicated. So I can be extroverted to kind of do this kind of thing. And I'm extroverted to socialize for about 3 hours until I start feeling like I'm getting drained. That's just me. It's got nothing to do with anybody else. So the thing is, my partner will go out and do a lot of things with her family and friends that, yeah, I'm welcome to a lot of it, but not all of it, and that's fine. And or she knows my schedule is such, or if I've just worked with 10 clients in a day, what I usually end up doing, because I'm often sitting in a reclining chair to do that. This is like not a reclining chair. It's I guess a swivel chair thing. I don't know. It's comfy though. It's new. It's comfy. So, but yeah, I often sit in a reclining chair, and I always have, but like, yeah, not to bring this into, but yeah, the heavier I am, the more, of course, I can't, I sit, reclining really works for my body right now. Let me just say that. But, so anyway, it's to take pressure off my neck and back, even if I'm not in this situation, which may never be the case again, I don't know. But so when I'm working with clients, I want to make sure that I'm in a comfortable position, and because 10 hours of that on some days. Sometimes it's 8, 5, but often I've had 10 clients a day, many days, more days than not. So after that, whatever time I'm finishing work, my partner knows, and then, like I set an alarm. I don't ask her to come wake me up. But I just recline in that chair, usually still with the computer right where it is, and I'll I'll set the alarm for when I know I'm going to be done in like about an hour and 15 minutes after. And I'm just exhausted at that point. So if my partner really wanted me to do something or have dinner, would I be available? No. And so if she really wants dinner then, she can get dinner then, right? And then I can get dinner later too, or whatever. And mind you, though, that my partner is kind of the queen of the kitchen, and I'm not, because I'm not a great cook or anything, so I give her deference there. But that's not something that's ironclad. Like, if I want to go tinker around in the kitchen and make my own, fruit smoothie or something, of course I can do that, and I do that sometimes. But the bottom line is, anyways, so that's just about a healthy relationship. And so this idea that codependency is so fused to being the same, like a triangle, with borderlines and narcissists because of something underpinning that, well, the healing recovery process for people with codependency is a lot different than borderlines or narcissists, if they can even want it or get there, and then it's years and years. And the other thing is, let me just say, there is no one thing that will heal you from the BPD or NPD relationship breakup. No one thing that will help you to heal and move through the codependency. It's a multi-layered, multifaceted process, and it doesn't take forever. But beware of anyone out there saying they've got one solution for you, and it's a, quote, cure. Because you don't need a cure for codependency. You don't need a cure for how to do this work, to go from being codependent, to get out of the cycling, recycling, the pain of, having been in a BPD or NPD relationship and that breakup. And when you get that breakup to be the end, and you accept that, moving forward to heal codependency and to work on that, getting out of family of origin role, healing the wounded inner child, it's individuation out of family system and into more independent you. And the other thing is that the inner child healing work is a self-integration process. And so that makes you more whole when you've integrated your inner child. And you've helped the inner child heal the woundedness of your past and your childhood. And they come into the here and now going forward with you. So this idea that there's, like people with BPD have codependency. People with codependency, obviously you have codependency and you don't have cluster B. And sometimes it's not that clear for everybody, but it can be that clear for a lot of people with codependency. You do not have BPD or NPD, but you do have codependency. Well, coaching and therapy and a healing recovery process is the way forward, not Codependents Anonymous, okay? Just seriously, really, not Codependent Anonymous 12 steps are the co-opted 12 steps from Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you're somebody who doesn't have a substance abuse problem, and I've never had one, why would you want to go and listen to the 12 steps for people that unfortunately maybe have alcoholism or are working on sobriety? And it makes more sense to work on sobriety in a 12-step like Alcoholics Anonymous. People with codependency, when you're trying to heal the woundedness of childhood, it doesn't happen through the, quote, 12 steps of CODA, which is the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Just saying. So anyway, the idea of going from being codependent through your healing recovery process to independent is really sound psychology of what makes healthy and happy individuals with themselves first, and then in relationship going forward, if that's what one chooses, right? Now, everybody chooses to be in a relationship, but you have to watch out for the counter-dependent position, which there's counter-dependency and codependency, kind of opposite ends of a spectrum, so to speak, but not always. Some people with codependency kind of oscillate between codependent, counter-dependent, and it's all about, it's defensive in its nature. And when you get to this independent person, when you grow to be independent through all this healing, then it's really different, because you don't need externally, you're not dependent on anyone for how you feel, anyone externally. You don't need somebody else's validation. You don't need somebody to agree with you. You're fine, whether somebody agrees with you or likes you or not. And so, and like I said about the healthiest relationships, that's one of the key core foundational aspects of healthy relationships is two independent people. And what that really means, coming together in interdependency. So I hope that was helpful. And I hope if you think about that, the mutuality, the reciprocity, the trust as a foundation, the self-respect for yourself, the self-respect of a healthy partner, this coming together is from your growing toward and healing to be an independent person, an individuated person, out of your family of origin, role, and system, so to speak, that way. Then the mutuality, reciprocity, the trust is the foundation of a relationship is one of the most amazing things that you can ever experience with another human being that you really want to be with and they really want to be with you. It's not control struggles. Nobody's trying to control anybody. There's respect. There's mutuality, reciprocity. You know, when my partner's thinking about her life and her day and her work, and when I'm thinking about my life, my day, my work, my friends, my pets, whatever, it's not to the exclusion of thinking about my partner and what's going on for her and her day, and we communicate, and you know, like even just simple things that you can't do with a borderline consistently. It's about consistency, really, and it is each person having object permanence for sure, and trust, etc., in self and other, in interdependent, healthy relationships. So if that sounds good to you, maybe it can be a bit of a motivator to get into a healing recovery process so you can get working through to the ending of the BPD relationship breakup so that you can start to heal from that. And then look at family of origin, wounded inner child work. There's other aspects in there too. And then how you can really heal and recover and know yourself as an individual and create a healthy and functional relationship to and with yourself that people with codependency haven't had up to this point in their lives. You so deserve that. Stop self-abandoning for a borderline or a narcissist that promises you nothing but more pain, and you've had a lot of pain in your life already in more ways than one. Put you first. It's not narcissistic. And people that say that are just 100% incorrect. It's what you deserve, and you need to matter to you more. So part of this process in healing from codependency and these cluster B relationships, it's actually that through the process, and I'm quite aware of this with my clients. Sometimes we discuss it, sometimes it's just happening, as with attachment styles and things of that nature too. Bottom line is, people with codependency in their healing and recovery process are needing to learn what it means, what it looks like, how it feels, to be developing more healthy narcissism. There is healthy narcissism. Not all narcissism is pathological. Hope that was helpful. Take care.